everybody, and welcome to
Gank That Drank,
a supernatural drinking game podcast. This is Season 2, Episode 3, Simon Said, and No Exit.
Of course, in every episode of Gank That Drank, you know that we're going to be assigning ourselves some drinking game rules and playing along with the I've been hearing this word a lot lately, and I'm a little uncomfortable using it, but I'm going to call it supple. I'm going to call the show supple and subtle and magnificent television show Supernatural. Yes, so those are our descriptive words, but we're going to be playing along with those drinking game rules, with those episodes, and then afterwards, we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, we're going to talk about how the rules played out and how much we like them, and we're going to talk about the episodes and our quest to curate the perfect Season 2 drinking game. I am comedian Krissy Lenz, and with me as always
is comedian Nate McWhorter.
And tonight we're watching Season 2, Episode 5, Episode 27 overall, Simon Said. Aired October 26th, 2006. 3.65 million viewers. So, we're doing good, but we're just hanging on this season. And then Episode 28 overall, 6 of this season, No Exit. It's a Kim Manners episode, November 2nd, 2006.
All right.
Spoiler alert.
But yes, in case you were wondering, we will be talking about the episode in its entirety. So there's going to be spoilers, and it's a show you've had 12 years to watch.
It is. Well, and also, if you made it this far into Season 2 of this podcast, and, obviously you're watching along.
But if it's your first episode, we'll be doing spoilers.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes.
Okay, so we are continuing to play in our cumulative attempt this season. Wi-Fi.
If you are confused about how either of the boys are getting Wi-Fi in their current location, take a drink.
Rock salt.
If the boys have to use rock salt, take a drink, and take 2 drinks if it does not work.
Right. Concussion.
Take a drink if one of the boys, or just anyone, definitely got some brain damage, injury going on.
That's a 2-drinker.
Yeah, that's a 2-drinker.
Although I think we've only been playing it as 1 drink.
Yeah, because it happens
a lot. Slam.
Anytime something slams, take a drink, and that's one you got to watch out for because a lot of things slam.
Toxic masculinity.
Discussed in the last episode if there's any sort of toxic masculinity or assumed or presumed or any time it can be debated. Take a drink.
Cut yourself for a spell.
If anyone has got to cut themselves for the spell, which every hunter in the world should know who's a hunter because they all should have sliced palms constantly.
Yep, they should always have a bandage on that. That's a 2-drinker. Someone dies.
If someone dies...
this is our new one.
This is our new one we're adding this week. Someone dies, take a drink. And then if you didn't know their name, take 2 drinks.
Or if you just can't remember it.
Yeah, if you just can't remember what their name was, yeah.
And then I'm adding the rule, themed hotel. All your rules are doubled for the episode if the boys are staying in a themed hotel room.
We should have let off with that one so that we knew what all the other points were for going into today.
All right, so that is what we're playing this episode. We're going to go watch Simon Said and No Exit, and we will be right back. And we're back.
Those were interesting.
Yeah. Which one do you want to be in charge of?
I'll do the first one.
Simon
Says, which, as we noted at the very beginning, we kind of remember this is similar to an X-Files episode called...
It's very similar to an X-Files episode called Pusher.
Yes. But the basic gist of this one is we start out, we see a dude who's just walking down the street and then all of a sudden gets the urge after talking on a cell phone to go in and shoot up. I guess shoot him. He should have shot himself in the gun store, or did he
shot. I guess he did shoot himself.
Yeah, he just shoots himself in the gun store because that's what ends up being the whole point of this episode is these people that are involved with. Well, we'll get to it. Okay, so that's how we start out. Was this guy? But then it turns out it's a vision from Sam. That's what it's a Sammy vision. Which we find out.
Exactly like that episode in season 1 with the kid who's making people commit suicide.
Yep. So we're rehashing some openers here, but anyway, the boys go to check out this town to try and stop this man from going to the gun store. But before that and everything, in all that, we find Cool Van Guy, which is what I labeled him, who is our first supernatural being.
Yep.
He can Jedi mind trick, get anyone to do anything he wants. He Killgraves them by speaking.
Yes.
If you're going by Jessica Jones' character rules.
Correct.
And so we see him, and he's got this cool, like, hippie van with an awesome, like, Xeno warrior riding a polar bear painted on the side of it, and just a shaggin' wagon with a disco ball and all this. Like, he's living his best life.
He is, and he's like, he says several times, like, I've got everything that I need.
I have the van. What else do I need?
What else do I need?
But it turns out he has an evil twin brother. We find this out through a bunch of records, because this whole time we're realizing that this is one of the special children that the yellow-eyed demon has chosen, that's born the same year as Sam, had lost a parent
In fire
and all this, and actually in this episode we watch the real mother of our first, I forget the character's name, but Cool Van Guy's real mom. Actually, I guess both their real moms because they're twins. She like douses herself at a gas station, and we get
which
this
is
whole,
also
like,
something exactly that happens in Pusher.
Yes.
The X-Files episode.
And we get the whole cool, like, dousing, and which, by the way, the whole gas station doesn't explode, even though this woman is on fire around a bunch of gas tanks. But whatever. Whatever. We didn't have the budget for that, I guess. And then they eventually, here's the interesting thing. So this is kind of what I want to maybe dive into a little bit, is that Dean is affected by these guys, but Sam is not.
Right.
Which obviously is probably because Sam is one of them, and they can't use it. They can't use their powers on him, I guess.
Well, yeah, but whatever makes him psychic and have the visions is obviously like protecting him or insulating him from their Jedi mind tricks.
Yeah. And so that's what, we again through this tense moment at the end when they're trying to take this guy out, and he's got the girl, the love interest on the bridge, trying to get her to jump off, and our hero psychic Cool Van Guy is trying to stop him. He ends up shooting him before he can get Dean to shoot himself, because Dean's in the woods trying to be a sniper. I guess Dean's a sniper.
Dean knows how to be
casually
a sniper
from hundreds of yards away trying to take this guy out. And then the guy makes Dean turn the gun on himself, and just in time, Cool Van Guy shoots his brother. And that's kind of where it ends, but we end just in the car with some good talking.
Yep. Well, and what they're talking about basically is like, and Dean gets Killgraved into telling the truth.
Yes.
And he says, we think that these kids might be killers, and Sam thinks he might be a killer, and I'm trying hard to convince him that he's not, but deep down I think maybe he might be,
but I'm terrified.
Yeah, he reveals all of that, and then so that's kind of the thing, is that Dean is sort of fighting for Cool Van Kid to not be the bad guy.
Right.
And Sam, uncharacteristically, is like, no, he's a killer. You gotta believe me. Like, he's unsavable.
And that comes from Sam's, like, self-hatred of himself.
Yeah.
A lot,
well,
I feel like. Because he feels like, I can't be trusted. Like, I don't know why I'm having these powers. Should I even be allowed to live? Like, that's why I feel a lot that I feel like we're getting from Sammy. Because he doesn't know what's happening to him. He doesn't know why these things are happening. He's still fresh off of losing dad and losing, obviously, like, everybody in his life. And he's like, well, if I'm just like this guy and he's killing everybody around him and people all around me seem to be dying. Like, that's where I feel like that sentiment's coming from Sammy. Is that
well, and even though Cool Van Guy doesn't end up being the bad guy in this episode, he ultimately kills his brother. And so Sam's like, see, if you push someone hard enough, they'll do bad things. Ugh. This is a wholly skippable episode.
Absolutely. Don't watch this episode. Unless you want to watch weird, like, not brony, but just like brochacho.
Brochacho?
Elijah Wood.
Oh, yeah. Like, that's something I wrote down. That, like, just in that one scene in the car, the bad guy looks like king-size Elijah Wood.
Yeah.
Like if Elijah Wood had human proportions.
So, how did our rules hit in this episode? Or I guess we weren't keeping track per episode, but I get there weren't a lot of rules in the first episode. I feel like we were drinking a lot.
They played Soundgarden in the first episode, which I thought was a little strange.
They played some Soundgarden, and I thought there was one other one they played.
I think they played some Twisted Sister in the next episode, or is that who it is? Your mama's all right.
Oh no, that's
right.
38 Special, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was in the next episode, which was No Exit. Okay, so whenever they show exteriors of the Roadhouse, it looks ridiculous. There's literally nothing else anywhere near it, and it looks like it's just a facade. Like, it just looks so
like the
fake.
Like the fake town in Blazing Saddles at the end of Blazing Saddles. Like, if you just knock it over,
it would just fall over.
It probably would. That's probably just built.
So the boys go to the Roadhouse and discover Ellen and Joe bickering because Joe wants to go investigate a lead and Ellen won't let her. So the boys agree to take all Joe's hard work and go do the job for her because they are men and they have penises and therefore they're more
wasn't being allowed to
apt
go
to be able to complete that job. So basically what's happening is that women are disappearing from this particular apartment complex. But there's going back about 80 years and it's just this weird, it only happens every so often. So nobody else is putting it together, but Joe did. So they go there. Of course, Joe tags along and it's the three of them eventually discovering that this particular vengeful spirit is none other than H.H. fucking Holmes.
Bam.
Which, it's a huge leap in logic to be like, oh, H.H. Holmes, who famously built a murder castle and had hidey holes in the walls and pits where he could keep women. Oh, he just happened to be laid to rest at an exact same place. He didn't build this apartment complex.
No. Well, no, but they said it in Philadelphia. They don't said it in Chicago where he lived. He lived in Chicago.
That's where the murder castle is.
Right, that's where the murder castle is, but but he was hanged in Philadelphia.
Right.
So and
on the site where he was hanged, they built an apartment complex that just happened to have
weird
hidey holes in the walls and human-size metal coffins in the adjacent sewer.
Yeah, that was the one part of this that didn't, like, I could have understood. I don't know. Where did that they never explained where that came from, what that room was, or like that it was next to the
chamber
building.
In the sewer.
Right.
Yeah,
it was just in the lot next door, which happened to be empty. Mm-hmm. Right, in Philadelphia, come on now, there's no empty lots just chilling, especially if they got anyway, and they just pop it open and it's like, oh, anyone can go down here. This is just a normal, like, bomb shelter basically is what it was. But they never explained that. That's what in the episode.
It doesn't make any sense.
They have the blueprints, so I'm assuming they found it from the blueprints.
Yeah, Sammy finds it on the larger city blueprints. But like, why would H.H. Holmes be allowed to haunt a place that?
But I think because it's in the lot next to it, right? And they said the lot next to it used to be the prison. That's where he was hanged. Right. Okay. So my theory is that while he was in that prison, he either built and or knew there was this room underneath. So then, like.
He couldn't have built anything. He was a prisoner.
But when he became a spirit, he knew that room existed, and
don't
used
do
that
their
room.
work for them.
I'm
Nate.
just
don't
saying.
Do their work for them.
It's a possible explanation.
And so, anywho, they, of course, Joe gets captured and has to be rescued, and then has to be used
because
as
she
bait.
volunteered to go down into the vent. She volunteered to go down into the vent, and the dude happened to be down there.
And so they end up trapping the ghost of H.H. Holmes in a circular room that has salt everywhere, and then they fill the sewer up with cement, which also doesn't make any sense.
Any sense at all.
It would take more than one cement truck. Where the hell is Dean getting a cement truck?
That's expensive.
How does he know how to drive a cement truck? Anyway.
He's a sniper slash cement truck driver. Everyone knows
He has so many skills. And then when we get back to the Roadhouse, of course, Ellen is furious.
Oh, she flies out to them.
To Philadelphia,
She flies to Philadelphia.
Which is something I don't buy either, because, like, Joe's excuse of how she got away from Ellen was by saying...
that she was going to Vegas.
She's going to go to... Oh, sorry, Mom, we had this big fight. I'm just going to go to Vegas from Nebraska. Don't ask any questions.
Or Wyoming, or wherever they're at.
And it's like, why would... There's no way Ellen would let her go to Vegas.
No. Not after a big fight about you can't go hunt.
Yeah. No. Anyway, so Ellen is furious, and Ellen reveals to Joe, who reveals to Dean, that John Winchester was the hunter that Joe's father, Ellen's husband, had been with, and he got him killed somehow, and they decide to blame Sam and Dean for this.
And therefore they cannot be trusted.
Right.
Which really, they should have gone with that instinct. They might still be alive.
Oh, well. Future spoilers.
Future spoilers.
Okay, but so I think you should watch this episode just to be like, what? They did an H.H. Holmes episode? And to get a little bit more backstory on Ellen and Joe. But there are some kind of gross things in this episode. Like, I don't really like the way that they sort of pit Dean and Joe in, like, this moonlighting, will they or won't they kind of romance. Like, at one point he's being very brotherly and protective of her, but they're in the walls, and he has to, like, slide past her, and there's this really badly written terrible joke where he's like, oh, I should have cleaned the pipes, and, you know, because she's sliding across the front of him, and then she's like, what are you saying? You know, the pipes down here, they're gross and dusty. It's, come on.
I didn't even catch that was like something I didn't get that at all. I just thought he was complaining about the pipes being dusty. I didn't catch it all that he was trying.
It was like when she was having to squeeze past him in a waltz.
Why would you say I had to clean the pipes though? I'm confused.
Because that's like an expression that dudes say when they're like, oh, this is too sexy. I should have definitely...
I've never heard that in my life. I just don't hang out with the right people, I guess. Or like hang out with
You've
the
never
right
seen
people.
the movie Cabin Boy?
No. But I feel like they do this with Dean and Joe throughout their whole relationship as this weird, like, it's not a will they, won't they. It's he treats her like, they treat each other like siblings, but then have weird bits of romance, like, thrown in. And it's just always confusing and off-putting. Yeah. Every time.
I agree. Confusing, off-putting, and kind of gross. So there's also a part where whoever the actor is who's playing H.H. Holmes does a lot of, like, really delicate hand work. Like, he's always just, like, really flexing his fingers as if he's about to do close-up magic for these girls. And, of course, his hands are, like, disgusting and black, and, like, he has these long fingernails, and it's gross. I think the most uncomfortable moment of both these episodes is when he's just, like, sliding that gross, greasy black hand down Joe's arm. It's like too real and too gross. But of course, like, I think it's so weird and uncharacteristic, and maybe I'm wrong, but, like, why would they do a well-known serial killer? Right? They went from doing, like, the first season, which is urban legends.
Well, but
this season they're kind of all over the place.
It was the spirit of the serial killer. I think it was, honestly, I don't know. Maybe they just wanted to do it. Because the way they get to H.H. Holmes was super random, too, remember? Because they're like, oh, let's get a list of all the people who were executed at the prison. Oh, here's a list of 100, we call Ash. And we get a list of, like, 180 people who were executed. And as we're just scrolling through, Sammy happens to see H.H. Holmes' real name,
Sammy,
which is
who is a dedicated murderino, who knows, knows on sight.
Knew the actual, because his last name is not Holmes, the actual last name of H.H. Holmes. spotted it out of that whole list, just scrolling through it, and was like, oh, here's our guy.
And then the boys turn 100% Karen in Georgia, and they're just like, well, let me tell you. And did you know he was buried encased in cement? And did you know he did this? And did you know he did that? And blah, 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 blah. And Joe's like, who is H.H. Holmes? And they're just like, oh, blah, 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 blah. You know, I don't believe that there's any world in which Sam and Dean would be interested in serial killers, right?
No.
Why would they be interested in human killers?
Yeah.
Why do they know everything about H.H. Holmes?
I have no idea.
Which you spent some time on the Wikipedia page
Yes,
while the
pretty much
episode was
most
on.
of that episode I spent on the Wikipedia page, and
Tell us all about it.
I mean, basically, he was just a dude in Chicago who who built an apartment complex after working across the street for some time. Bought a piece of land, built an apartment, and that became the murder castle, where the Wikipedia article, I'll say, does not do a good job of going into detail of the murders. They just kind of gloss over some of the gory sides of it, but it killed the wife of his friend first, who he married. He killed people close to him, he killed people far away from him, killed people in different cities, killed people in Canada, stashed bodies in Canada. The Philadelphia sheriff who tracked down the two people he murdered and dug into or left buried 3 feet deep in some basement in Canada. He said, talked about when they were digging it up, the smell got worse and worse. And, of course, his body famously, he had cast into a bunch of concrete because he didn't want anyone to mutilate his corpse. And then in 2017, they actually exhumed his body because there was rumor that he was never actually executed. I'm sure this episode had a lot to do with that theory.
Yeah.
And they checked it, and it was really well preserved because of the concrete. And his clothes were in great shape, and he did not decompose normally. His mustache was still intact. So H.H. Holmes, still looking fly after 100
And I think, perhaps I'm mistaken, but I thought he mainly killed people for their money, and of course he was a terrible human being and a
right. So he stiffed people all the time. So he would build these buildings, and he would stiff people for the goods. He would stiff people for the labor. He got sued a bunch of times. He was arrested first in St. Louis for robbery. Because he just took a bunch of supplies from this dude and never paid him for it. Mm-hmm. And he was actually...
But didn't he also, kill women?
Marry
them and kill them?
Yeah, he would marry women and kill them, or, kill their... And we have a visitor on the podcast. The doctor isn't. But he would either marry them, kill them, or he would befriend their husbands, kill the husbands, then adopt the children. He had 3 children that he took in from a different family after killing the husband, because the whole thing was he faked. It's really deep. There's a lot that went on. He came up with a scheme while he was in prison to fake his own death to get the insurance money, but the insurance company became skeptical and they shut it down. So then he got his friend to fake his own death, except he actually killed his friend so that it was actually a real death. His wife got the money. His wife had already agreed to give H.H. Holmes some of the money. She gave him the money. He then adopted 3 of her children, ended up killing 2 of them. This guy was, and like I said, the quote that he said basically was just I'm a murderer. Some people are poets. I murder. It's what I do. He was a guy who knew what he was.
Well,
and in death apparently too knew what he wanted to do. He wanted to murder. That's all the guy wanted to do.
But I also wonder, so they show that he's in the walls. He's taking the women through the walls. He's oozing up through the grates, which is also I don't know if we said this already, but. Also akin to another X-Files episode called Tombs, which the ectoplasm oozing through mm-hmm. and the person living in the walls and coming through the grates. That's straight out of X-Files.
Yeah. The black fingers coming through the grates.
Yep. Yeah. Tombs. Yeah. But how does it work for the spirit who can theoretically move through objects? How does he get the women into the sewer? Because they sort of show him knocking one lady down on her ass and pulling her toward the grate. But is he hold on a second, unscrew the grate, really and before she comes to be okay, I just need you to bend a little bit.
Yeah, I need you to just come on.
I'm going to drag you unconscious through this grate.
And then even in the end, they blast him with rock salt, but we know that rock salt doesn't keep... Like, he just, like, strolls back in, whereas normally a spirit would probably just poof back into the room, right? There's a lot of weird spirit rules.
He does poof in behind her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the rules on demons and spirits and stuff are still being established, I feel, in our universe a little bit. We're still finding our way on some of them.
Can you think of, and I know that you've only seen up till the very beginning of season 8, but can you think of other, I mean, I guess they do, like, Elliot Ness, and they do Sam Colt, and they do a little bit of time travel, and they've got, of course, like,
they do.
But do they do other famous killers?
But they don't do killers. I don't think I've ever. There's no like. No, not that I can think of. That there would be. Didn't we have one in the last episode that was
famous killer? Bloody Mary.
Bloody Mary. I feel like
those are all
other
like
than
urban
just
legends.
Urban legends. Yeah, I mean we had the urban legend ones, but no, not that's coming to mind. You obviously have the. I mean, you have the Untouchables episode, but that's not a killer. That's just a regular dude. Yeah, other than like actual people who lived in history, because don't they do an H.G. Wells?
They have Hitler and Nazis from time to time. Occasionally. Yeah, I don't know. It seems out of character for the show.
I would agree. Because it doesn't seem like their bag. I mean, maybe they just really wanted, the producers or writers just wanted to do an H.H. Holmes episode, and they're like, how can we
shoehorn this in here?
He's a spirit.
Because it could have just been a spirit.
Right.
Anyway.
And if Joe did all that research...
You don't think she
over
would have
80
been like...
years of that building, and it all being like women and like the trend, and she nothing that she would have been like, oh, this is next to the prison where H.H. Holmes was hanged. Maybe it's him. All that research
and
that
also
she did.
like, yeah, you'd think that it would be like if you Googled that prison, it'd be like, oh, this is the prison that hung H.H. Holmes.
We even got research from Ash, and it didn't like he didn't say anything.
And no one was like, by the way, like I mean, that's not really what prisons do, is like try and hide the famous people that they've executed. Like, yeah, I mean, otherwise Alcatraz wouldn't exist.
Yeah. We still go there, visit it, give it money.
Yep.
Do tours.
Go.
Super fun. Oh, interesting. We could have turned it into Legoland in San Francisco, but nope. Prison's still there.
Okay, let's talk about our rules.
They didn't hit a lot. Some hit.
Some did. Okay, so, all right, here's what we got. We got rock salt, happened once for 2 drinks.
And did not work.
Slam.
I guess it did work.
Happened once, although I think that we probably missed several slams.
I was trying to keep my eye out for it.
Happened 3 times.
Yeah, someone died.
I guess we didn't count the first girl in the cold open, though. She's dead. She did. They don't find her. They don't rescue her.
I thought that's the one they rescued.
No, they rescue the second girl.
Oh, yeah. They definitely don't. I'll drink now for her.
Yep. And then toxic masculinity. In this episode, we counted 5 different instances, which include the entirety of the twin brother, whose entire stance on life was that if he can't have his brother, no one else can. He doesn't want anyone to get in the way of his relationship with his brother, and he'll take out anybody who gets in his way. We got Dean in that same episode asking for everybody to forget that he revealed his emotions. Then we've got twice Dean telling Joe that she can't possibly do the job or be a hunter or do things well. Believing that she's done all this work or that she could possibly do it rightly.
Right. Which I agree that it is toxic masculinity, but I did point out that Dean also tells everyone not to be a hunter. So.
Well, but he's not so much telling her that she shouldn't be a hunter. He specifically doesn't believe that she's capable.
But
of even doing research. Who put this together?
You're right. Okay. I get that part, but I'm just saying, like, in general, Dean, I don't
had
think
to have been Ash.
I don't think his whole reasoning for her not being a hunter is because she's a girl. I think it genuinely is because he literally tells everyone throughout the whole series, don't be a hunter, stop hunting, stop doing this, because he thinks he's the only one who can and should do it, which is why he gets upset when Sammy's the one who saves the day a lot of times against the big bads, right? which is why he's always like scoffing because, you know, he's the one who's got the powers, or he's, you know, later on the things that Sammy does. Like, I feel like that's a big theme for Dean, is that he just feels like because he should be the only one who like it all should always be on him all the time, which is very toxic and masculine. I agree.
He's trying to take on the burden.
Right. He's trying to take on the burden of it, but I think that the reason why he's telling her is like, just don't be a hunter, because I don't think anyone should be a hunter. He does the same thing with Krissy Chambers later on.
But I honestly, I hear that there are shades of what you're intimating, but there's also shades of him just not thinking that she could be capable.
I agree with that. I'm just saying that,
and he says to her at one point, and another one we counted it was him just telling her straight up, "You don't know what you're doing. How could you possibly know what you're doing?" Like,
yeah, which he also makes a point that she's
you're an amateur.
Which she is. She hasn't been hunting.
But that does not make her an amateur. She's literally raised
the definition
as much as he is. No.
But she wasn't raised on the road. She was raised in the roadhouse hearing stories, whereas he was raised traveling with John and actually, like, hunting things. She was never... They say that she has never gone out and actually hunted.
Well, I think it's real dumb to tell someone that they can't do a job until they have experience, and they can't get experience because they can't do the job until they have experience. That's dumb.
But he grows from it.
There should be apprenticeships.
But he grows from it.
And I guess eventually there are. And then when
later on,
when Ellen calls to say, like, I know she's there, you bastards. And he's like, oh, she's gone. She's doing a feminine business. Yeah. And I'm like, come on. Just come on.
That was bad writing. That's bad writing.
And we're just calling it toxic humanity that they would blame Sam and Dean for something that their father did that they didn't even know about.
Yeah.
They didn't even know about it.
We have a real issue with that as humans. That's why we still fight wars.
I guess so.
Your grandpappy killed my grandpappy, and I hate you for it.
Well, I guess we didn't really learn any lessons. Did we learn any lessons?
I didn't learn any lessons watching these.
I think you should watch.
I do have one more question,
No Exit.
Though. You think you should watch No Exit. You don't think you should watch...
Simon Said.
Simon Says does, and I have a point to make.
Simon Said, past tense.
Simon Said does have a lot of mythos stuff in it with the finding about
Yellow-Eyed Demon.
other kids.
Oh, yeah, because we didn't talk about the fact that the King Size Elijah Wood did not have the whole thing with the mom dying in the nursery.
Correct.
So it's unknown. So now it's off the table that you could just research anyone who's had a fire that killed their mom on their 6th month birthday, which, if that's not the most searchable thing, so we should talk about that. So sometimes the Yellow-Eyed Demon kills the mom. Sometimes the Yellow-Eyed Demon, who we have not yet revealed, is Azazel. Yet. And sometimes he doesn't, so there's an infinite number, perhaps, of
But we do
kids.
hear crazy guy say, like, the Yellow-Eyed Demon told me that that I had to come find you, or that I couldn't tell you, or, you know, like...
I had to wait till the right moment.
So I will say, like, even though it is skippable, but here's what I'll say, is that everything that you're going to need to know from this episode is going to be covered in a recap. In the then and
section. Now, which now we get every time.
Right.
They do. I wrote this down and made a note of it. They're still referring to the car as the Impala.
Oh, he calls it baby.
He calls it baby. Dean calls it baby. But
he says they took baby.
Sam calls it the
which is
Impala.
Which is a great moment when
you let him take the Impala.
You let him take the Impala. Yeah. I love that moment when he's just like, "Can I? That's a great model. Can I have your car?" Yeah, sure, bud. Here you go. It's cool to see Dean just give it up.
I really like that van. I kind of really want that van. It reminded me of, like, in Buffy when the 3 Nerds season, which is one of my favorite seasons, and they've got the van with the big Death Star.
Oh yeah.
And it, like, the horn does the I think it plays the Star Trek theme.
Nice.
It's really great. Anyway, I love that van. And then the other thing is that Dean is really worried that if they go to the roadhouse and reveal that Sam has these abilities, that the hunters are going to start, like, giving him the side eye.
I mean...
And Ellen's like, let me help. I want to help. If it affects you, it affects all of us.
Hunters aren't exactly the most tolerant people.
No, they are definitely not. Last episode, we met Sterling K. Brown, the least tolerant hunter.
Yeah.
The grumpiest hunter.
But I wouldn't exactly be going into a hunter's bar and be like, hey, he sees death before it happens, and he goes into these spasms and headaches all the time. And no,
he's a psychic.
Especially because they don't have the tattoos yet. Yeah, no, that would be not a good idea.
They don't have the tattoos yet?
No, they don't have the tattoos yet. Right? Sammy we haven't even got there yet. I don't think they have them.
I don't know. Time is a flat circle, Nate.
Well, what's next? Join us in 2 weeks for our next episode. That's season 2, episode 4. We're going to be watching Usual Suspects and Crossroad Blues.
Crossroad Blues.
We get our first Crossroad Demon.
Crossroad Demon.
We're going to come up with a theme song for Crossroad Demon.
I think we just did.
But do you have a suggestion for us, just on anything at all?
You got a cocktail, you got a rule, you got something we missed, you want to take issue with my lampooning of toxic masculinity.
If you don't like how we pronounce certain words, just whatever, just let us know.
Got something to say about H.H. Holmes? Yeah. Hit us on the Facebook.
Send all your H.H. Holmes takes to @k.lens on Twitter.
But the Most Excellent Facebook group is a place to go. MostExcellentPod.com. Leave us a review, thumbs up, rate, all of that jazzaroo.
And if you're in the Phoenix area, you can find Krissy or myself at the National Comedy Theater at nctphoenix.com. Thanks for listening.
We don't have any lessons learned. Remember your Gank That Drank lessons learned. Skip the episode Simon said. Watch the episode No Exit.
That's right. And we will see you next time.
Remember when you're out there saving people and hunting things,
the family business.
Keep the Most Excellent Podcast.
Motto?
Most Excellent Podcast
Network.
Keep the Most Excellent motto in mind. Be excellent to each other and
party on, dudes.